Jim, I've had I've had the fortune of working with him for a bit, so I'm really glad that I got a chance to host this session with you. So Jim works at Moët Hennessy, so he leads the Anaplan CoE, and he's been at Moët Hennessy. And Jim, forgive me if I get this wrong. 13 years. You corrected me the last time around. I think it should be close to 14 now.
Yes, 14 years. You're almost right, Ankit.
Yes. So 14 years, that's such a long time. So that's thank you for taking our time today. I wanted to definitely have you in the session, and also have the chance for the audience to kind of go through the whole journey that you've been on, not just with Anaplan but also at Moët Hennessy, and get a chance for people to ask questions as well, and learn from your overall experience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ankit, for having me. It's a pleasure. For the friends in the Zoom meeting, good morning for our folks in the West Hemisphere, and good evening to you, Ankit, for you and all the colleagues you have, who stay late for us. So appreciating that.
Perfect. So Jim, thank you so much for that. And yes, we do have audience from both parts of the world. So we've got quite a few people from India as well as the US. So Jim, as as you already know, this session is going to be more of a question and answer, but I don't want to be just a question and answer session. I want it to be more conversational. So please forgive me if I do end up asking a few questions which were not discussed earlier as well. So I think we're good to start. Perfect. So I think, Jim, I'll jump straight into it, right? So I really wanted to dig into the experience that you've had in building the CoE at Moët Hennessy. But then to start off with that, if you could give us your background on how did you end up within the Anaplan ecosystem, and what brought you to this point.
Yes, of course, Ankit. Frankly, I think it's a little bit coincident, and actually for sure that Anaplan never got into my mind when I joined Moët Hennessy USA. But even before that, I think I'm always having a career in the corporate finance in kind of area. My experience actually vary from a kind of a raw materials trading company, then a telecommunication, then pharmaceutical. And to your point, about 14 years ago, I joined Moët Hennessy actually in the FP&A team. During these career journeys, of course, we had to deal with various kind of ERP systems, like Oracle, I think SAP, including some also reporting system like Hyperion, BPC, etc. So when I joined Moët Hennessy, we were using like a BPC as the FP&A tool. And I think we probably know that, none of the two is perfect. So we definitely got into some issues with the tool. And that's why about 3 years after I joined, we actually had a kind of a study, very thorough study across Moët Hennessy USA to understand what kind of a tool was the right one for us, because the existing one, of course, didn't work very well. And that actually landed to the new tool called Anaplan in year 2016. So then we get the first project deployed in year 2016, and the second one coming up in year 2017. And in the meantime, because the tool actually brought a requirement called Anaplan CoE, and I decided I wanted to move from the business side into this new Anaplan CoE. And actually, I did that. I never, I looked back. And here still, after 8 some years, I'm still in charge of this wonderful tool and the COE organization within Moët Hennessy USA.
That's great to hear, Jim. So what ideally when you started off, did you ever imagine the journey to be at this point and did you imagine that the COE would look the way it does right now?
Well, sort of, I think I was expecting something like this one. Of course, the COE actually changed from year to year. But again, I think later we can discuss about how, a COE of Anaplan should
Yes.
be looking like.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, one of the key principles for maintaining a COE is it has to be flexible in order to, in terms of resources arrangement, of course. The other thing is it has to work as something that we never had before, which means that we need to be in charge of data flow processes, also be in charge of implementation, which is part of the most important things for us, as well as relationship with our vendors, with our business partners. So a sort of everything together. But nonetheless, the biggest challenge on the COE is the demand side varies from time to time. So that's why I'm emphasizing that we have to be a very flexible as an organization and actually very lean at the same time in order to deal with all the different demands, from peak to the low and peak to the low. And sometimes, you never know.
No, absolutely. So I think that must be challenging as well, especially ramping up and ramping down as and when required. So what keeps you going then? What's the most exciting part of your job?
Well, for me personally, the most exciting part is to see, if we can actually create something for our business partners to solve their pain points. Yeah. It's funny because I saw that, I'm a very, very kind of a finance guy, right? Of saying, we need to actually move our dollars to create either the top line or bottom line, we say, in the finance area. But actually, it end up actually, we after taking the job, after a few years, I was thinking, actually, I don't care about the dollars that much. Doesn't mean that it's not important, but I cared more about what is your daily challenge, what kind of a pain point you have, right? To solve the pain point, and actually it turned out to be actually increase the productivity across the organization. That's actually the motivation has been driving me for so many years.
Absolutely. I think that requires, especially the fact that you've been, working on. So even though you say that you wanted to move towards Anaplan, I think you've had enough experience on EPM systems as a whole, and that kind of gives you the right. I think that gives you the right motivation to know exactly how to formulate the team that you have and the structure that you've created as well. One thing that I do want to understand over here as well, so especially for people watching who are in the process of creating the COE, you did mention that you have to keep the team extremely lean, depending on the requirement. But then how do you kind of align that across how do you ensure that adoption is also there and the alignment across business teams is also there, while you are also keeping your team very lean, right? Because we believe that, and personally what I've seen is adoption is one of the major challenges with any enterprise planning system.
Yes, you're right. Actually, there's a few kind of a perspectives of adoption, right? One is, of course, the technology to be adopted, right, as a new thing, right? As you know, for any individual or human beings, anything new, there is a barrier. You have to spend time to understand the new technology. You spend time to learn a little bit of a different kind of a programming language or, the interface, etc. So that's the technical perspective. More important, I think, is the cultural perspective for us. We are actually sitting in the COE. We're not only like a technical guru. A lot of people think we are. We're actually a change agent. I think that is actually the biggest part of our job, because we are actually getting, the task to change the entire organization, how the behavior of the organization. Coming with Anaplan, and as you know, good thing of Anaplan is it's super flexible. It's very agile. It comes with pretty much a blank piece of paper. Like you can actually draw any kind of, fantastic drawings you have. But on the flip side, it's not like a very rigid system like SAP or something like that, which means it's not very regulated or not very supervised. So you have to build a process and the governing, around it. And when you do that, apparently you're destructive. You're actually trying to break the doctrine from the old way that people are doing their jobs. Doesn't mean they're not good. And then you're putting into this organized control system, and that creates a real cultural difference. On top of that, if you want to actually do a cross-functional implementation, you want to do the integrated kind of a solution, you're actually breaking more barrier than you saw before. That's why when I actually joined the COE, I said, okay, I want to actually get a fantastic financial forecasting tool. And it ended up actually doing not only financial forecasting, it's actually changing a lot of my colleagues' way of doing their jobs across finance, across supply chain operations, across commercial, across the marketing team. So it was quite amazing for me. And actually that means when I'm actually trying to build my COE, I need to make sure I have the talent who are not only technical savvy, but also customer minded and also can drive the changes.
That's a great point of view, and I think on top of that, just one more question in there. So I think one of the things that Anaplan kind of prides itself on is the fact that they enhance collaboration across different departments. Now, in order for different departments to come on to the same source of truth, you need some level of data intelligence as well. Right. And that's where my next question is, where I want to understand, do you think that data, not just, clean data cleanup and, data structuring is important, but then data intelligence itself, do you think that also improves business outcomes?
No doubt. I mean, nowadays data play a fantastic, super big role across enterprise. So I think, 10 years ago, we didn't talk too much about data. We talk about the process a lot. We talk about the tool a lot. In the recent years, I mean, we talk about data more than anything else. Part of the reason is because the exponential growth of the data points we have, right? So now you got actually plenty of every kind of all sort of a data source available for us. The question becomes, which ones you want to actually use, which one you want to pick in order to facilitate your forecasting or planning or decision making. So number one question, my clients, internal clients asking, it's always like, are we getting the right data or not? And number two question they ask is, if we're getting the right data, how do I actually interpret them? I think these are the two challenges we always face. So for me, the data intelligence, the intelligence is gonna play just more and more important role right now and actually in the future. And talking about intelligence, my perspective again is first, you have to have this kind of intelligence to be validated by your business user. So no one can say right or wrong, because the data have two bases. If you use that differently, the right data can be actually wrong for some business scenarios. In the flip side, yes, some kind of not looking fancy data can be actually right for your decision making, really depending on your business user. So the first lesson we learned is you have to have it validated by the users. And it's not easy, actually. It's a journey, because it means you have to actually trying to ask your client to adapt it. So you spend a lot of time trying to coach, trying to tweak in order to make sure that the intelligence is smart enough for them. And second is, it's not a one-time intelligence. Like, okay, today if we see, okay, we have this fantastic external data source, which is beautifully coordinated with our business process, we can adopt it. It doesn't mean that it's done, because it also needs continuous monitoring and improved by a dedicated team. About 4 years ago, Moët Hennessy USA started to build our data science team. Before that, you can imagine, right? The intelligence was not that high class as today. Even now, right now, the data team, the scientist team is growing a lot, because when you get this intelligence injected, guess what? People saying that I want to have more, and then I want to have it to be better. And that's what my perspective of how, the data intelligence plays in the enterprise.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. But one place where I've seen is once certain business users see their processes being automated, obviously with planning systems through the right data as well. It's very easy for the other business users to come on board as well. For them to say that yes, I need this for my planning purposes. But the problem that entails with that is with every business user that comes on board, they don't realize the data footprint that they bring in to the platform, the additional data sets that we need to bring in with every business user, even though they might be from the same team. But then that means that that doesn't mean that they will be working on the same data sets, right? And that is that I completely agree with you that where you mentioned that that whatever data that we bring in, and the intelligence part of it definitely has to be validated by the business user, wherein I feel that that actually helps us with enabling the business user right up front as well, so that they feel that they are part of the process rather than just using a product at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. That's why let me give you a little example. So
Sure.
2 years ago, we started to think about our commercial forecasting, that, okay, how can we actually make our commercial forecast more accurate and also easier for our field sales team, because they have tons of other responsibilities on top of they have to crunch in the data and tell the entire organization, the back office, like how many bottles or how many products they can sell in a certain market. So we brought in this kind of a so-called statistical forecast into our system to see that, okay, we're going to build this model to see whether we can actually automatically forecast some kind of a sales based on historical data. Right. So, and as I said, it's surprising, because everybody was excited, saying, okay, now we have this, a data scientist team to give us the algorithm, right? It can be actually put in the machine learning so that it can evolve from time to time. So it's going to be great. We thought, and at least, part of the organization thought the commercial team would organize, will work on that. Like they will say, okay, finally, we got a saver. But guess what? The immediate reaction was actually very cautious. People saying, wait a second, why your machine generated forecast would be better than mine? That's the number one question they asked. Okay. And then they have to prove like, okay, if it's better than mine, then is it going to be still better than mine in the next cycle? So it turned out that, okay, we wanted to roll out to all the 50 like a market plus market. And it turned out that we actually only would be able to roll it out in like 5 markets at the beginning, because we had to conquest this kind of doubt. And from the users, which we started were creating a fantastic tool for them. And that tell you that, it's any kind of intelligence is really not real intelligence until you can get a buy-in from your key users. And you can also think, right, the forecast will create a lot of downstream, forecast. For example, the supply chains is heavy relying on an accurate forecast to manage the inventories, manage the product flowing from one warehouse to another to our customers. So they're saying, okay, we need to also validate that if these smart forecasts, the data ingestion is good for the commercial team, we need to make sure that it's also good for our supply chain team. So you see, it's creating a chain reaction downstream within, our organization. So that's why, and it's always so interesting to sit as a COE to see like everything connect together. A lot of things like, we're always saying that we follow the data flow, right, to understand the business. It's giving just another layer of how you actually look at the business, how it works.
No, absolutely. I think one thing that you brought up, I've never really thought of it that way, where competence questioning is definitely, an issue where when you bring in a new system, you would have a business user saying that, do you not trust the forecast that I'm generating? Is that why you're bringing in the system? Or
Yeah.
is it that you feel that my process is not efficient enough, wherein, you need to bring in an automated system, or will it be a threat to my job at the end of the day? I think that's a very good point. I never this is one of those things that's always there in your subconscious, but you never say it out loud. So I think, yeah, you mentioned a great point there, Jim.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
that's what I'm saying. It's a behavior change, right? So
Yes.
we're not only saying that we want to deploy some fantastic technology, we also need to actually understand how human behave and how they react to this new technology. To your point, right? People are immediately thinking like, okay, am I still needed? Am I still creating the value for the organization? And actually, the answer is yes. It doesn't mean that we're trying to eliminate some of the jobs. We're trying to help people to do their job better, to be more efficient. But a lot of times, the message is not delivered very properly, then you create a friction, actually create a resistance of adaptation. So again, part of our job is to make sure that we can actually work with our clients together to make sure they understand the value the tool is going to create for them.
Absolutely. I think from that perspective, Jim, now while from and moving the lens, towards you, while you are implementing something for the business user, you have to ensure a certain sense of quality, and that gives you a sense of ownership of the product that you're delivering as well, right? So, according to you, what are the major hurdles that you have faced in implementing Anaplan, and how were you able to overcome them?
Well, to start, first and foremost is whether the client or the organization is ready or not. Yeah. And to answer that, we always trying to say like a informal kind of a questionnaire. Like first is, do you have a process or not? Right. So many times, yeah, people say, oh, I do have a process. I can tell you this, this, and this. And when you actually ask further, you actually realize that actually it's not a kind of a complete process, a broken process, or it's like if the process only exists in Excel spreadsheet, technically it's not a real process. So process readiness is one of the biggest challenge. And the second one is data readiness as well. Like, okay, if we bring in a system, we want to have the data right into that. And do we have the data ready for us to do that? If we do have the data, are the data consistent? Are the data actually can be maintained? Or are the data governed or not? And all these questions, again, actually turned out to be, okay, actually, we need to have a data CoE. And that was what Moët Hennessy actually did, again, around 5 years earlier. So it was relatively new. And then the third part is, which always was overlooked in my experiences, whether you have the internal sources needed for both the project to be implemented and also for the post-go live maintenance from the business side. Many times we saw that, okay, we can actually drop a great tool, okay, and then you can just up and run by yourself. Not the case. It's a lot of times it's just, okay, we bring the tool, but we have to convert some of the users to become the super users, so they can actually continuing actually maintaining the tool at their part-time, and also actually maintaining not only the tool, but the data side and process moving forward. Many times the business owners didn't think too much about that. They think that, okay, the tool will actually increase the productivity. For sure, it will. But in the meantime, sometimes it added some additional workload for some of the other colleagues, which we thought, okay, I didn't think about it. I think these are the biggest challenges I could, tell you. Yes, from the implementation and maintenance perspective, right? From Anaplan, we also have one of the questions is, how do we balance between the agility comes with Anaplan and the stability, which is required from the process perspective? And this one, after the implementation of any solution, becomes like the ongoing question between CoE myself, between the process owners, and between the business users. On one hand, you can know that Anaplan is super agile, right? And part of the reason we maintain a CoE is because we want to actually get a quick deployment of any changes the business side requires. Most of the time, it's super fast. We have a sort of in-house kind of a developing resources, not like a fantastic like you have, but still we can do quite some quick modification and deployment. We call it small enhancement. But on the flip side, it's creating a kind of a governing and actually integration process challenge, because the more agile, that means it's more difficult to align the process quickly and validate the process. So I call it like whether you want to spend the time to sit down, to think about it, to think about the end-to-end kind of a solution, or you want to say, let's go ahead and make the change because the business environment will change, right? So we don't have time to wait. And sometimes we create something is, we thought we actually get something done, good, but actually it triggers something which is not expected and creating surprises to some other users, which are all connected to this Anaplan ecosystem. So that is, the becoming the most important, one of the biggest challenges we have and we face on a daily basis.
Very interesting. I think from that perspective, especially implementing Anaplan, like you mentioned, coming from an FP&A background, implementing the platform for a single team has its own challenges, but then also when you try to build it across teams and then make them talk to each other, that is where I think the major challenge comes through as well. right? With cross-functional collaboration and with that, do you think was there an issue that with not an issue? I mean, was there a challenge that you faced with leadership buy-in as well, especially with cross-platform, cross-team collaboration?
Yes, the number one uh, first thing I do actually is trying to bring them together in one room.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, I mean, I guess uh, we're human beings. We all have egos. If you are a head of a commercial team, you think that I'm doing my best, right? My forecast is whatever I can endorse my forecast for my team because we know the market dynamic. We know what's going to happen. We know that this is the best kind of estimate anyone can give. But on the flip side, if you talk to your supply chain or the finance team, they have a different perspective, and everybody thinks that, okay, they are doing the best already. However, if you break the silo and look at everything together, you see that actually, it won't work because, if the data are not consistent and nobody's talking about the same thing, then you're actually getting multiple outcomes and you cannot actually explain holistically as an organization. So that's why, like to your point, right? If we want to actually really integrate and doing these collateral kind of a forecasting, we need to bring all these kind of a functional heads together and let them understand how we need to do. In many circumstances, my job is saying, hey guys, I know we have some issues and let's sit down and trying to see, what the issues are and how to tackle them. Strategically, when you put the people together, the right people together, and just all you need to do is to sit back and say, okay, guys, just trying to talk to each other and trying to find some kind of solutions. Most of the time is not easy. It takes time, but when you do that and when you set up these kind of occasions to have them talking to each other, eventually you will get something out of it. And that's what we did, a few years ago to completely overhaul our commercial forecast.
So, and I would really like to, understand your point of view on this. So the way you have approached is quite different to a conversation on Anaplan Heroes that we were having earlier in one of our sessions, where another approach to this was that you have a larger COE team wherein one person from your COE sits as a part of every different business function. I think that's one approach, but another approach could be: should there be a champion for Anaplan in every team that you go along with? How do you think about that approach? I mean, from a larger scale and from a scale at which you operate right now.
Yeah, so I don't see there is a right answer or wrong answer, Ankit. Frankly, I think because again we know that the COE can be can mean different, totally different meaning to different organizations. One of the things we always ask, and by the way, I forgot to mention that for our MHUSA, our COE actually sits more under the business side instead of sitting under the IT umbrella. And we always have like whether it's supposed to be a IT part or it's a business part. We choose to be sitting under the business side. The purpose is very clear. It's want to be closer to the business side so we can actually be more agile and quicker for any kind of changes needed. I think that worked, but it doesn't mean that the COE has to be the champion of everything. I don't think so. For me, probably it's better if you actually build champions across different functionalities for Anaplan, but you have a COE to actually continuing trying to nourish the champions, trying to continue educate and motivate them to actually evolve and trying to make changes within their organizations. But again, I think if we want to go any kind of a collateral forecast or planning, COE is super important to have this kind of a governing and coordination to make sure that we have the processes aligned across different functions and the different use cases. And of course, within Anaplan, that means not only the processes, but the data are flowing flawlessly across different models as well.
Absolutely. I think that completes the feedback loop as well. If you have champions in various departments, then you as well are always informed on what is the feedback from the different teams, and more of an unbiased feedback, because if they are champions of their own function, while they have their allegiances with both functions, right, with Anaplan as well as their own team. So I think that really gives you a good avenue for feedback as well.
Yeah, hopefully, yes. And again, I don't think, things need to be like that forever, right? We need to be flexible, as just like the system, we need to evolve as well. So things can change, but I think the principle is still there. We need to actually serve as a glue to tie everyone together, using a system, using a kind of a coordinated processes together.
Yeah, agreed. And so, Jim, shifting gears to the next part of what I wanted to ask you about, again, that this is more to do with all the advancements that we are seeing in not just in the planning space, but technology as a whole as well. So what are the innovations specifically for enterprise planning right now that you feel are great and you are most excited about?
Well, I think fortunately we're living in a world that the technology, I think, advances on a daily basis. If you follow, it looks like, from the AI side, every day we have a new kind of a rollout. Either it's a cloud, either it's ChatGPT, Sora. I think then Google, I think, announced something yesterday as well. I mean, that's why I think, when I look at, these kind of technology advances, I always think like at one time, at one day, the artificial intelligence is going to really play some critical roles, especially within the Anaplan. This one, for example, right, I think Anaplan has been talking about AI integration for a few years. We're still yet to see how it works, but with this kind of a technology evolvement, I think it's closer to see that. The first for me is whether AI can do the data cleansing and some preliminary data analysis for us. Then, whether it can actually do some quick scenario simulation so we can help us better on the decision making, right? That's one perspective. The other thing that I think is coming closer is how AI can help our human and machine interface. For example, right, today, if we want to change a very simple kind of an Anaplan page, we have to use a developer to change them, right? Either, the users can change or, the developer can change. Why not we rely on the AI to do that? Imagine we can just talk to the microphone like we're talking, saying, hey, can you actually move this grid to another location? Can you change the color for me? Can you highlight the data set for me? And AI can just finish that in a blink at the back end. How exciting would it be for our end users?
I think from a scenario planning perspective, that really opens up a whole world of possibilities, because especially in Anaplan right now, we think of scenario planning in a certain aspect, but then the problem that we face is that it becomes too rigid, because the idea of scenario planning is that I should be able to, you know, change drivers at will. And if I want to add a new driver to my scenario plan, then that requires some work. And I think AI could definitely help over there, wherein I could simply give an instruction saying that, you know, what if I want to change not just my overall revenue, but then within the revenue for a particular product within a category, I want to change something over there. And AI should be able to figure that out instead of me trying to build something inside of Anaplan.
Exactly. I think that's why, with this AI and machine learning functionality, it should be
Mhm.
part of the most exact things coming in a few years. Hopefully that become reality.
I think definitely Anaplan is bringing in a few of those feature sets with Anaplan Co-Planner as well, and that is something, you know, I'm really excited about. But I want to understand from you on what you think is for your journey for Moët Hennessy USA's journey for the next phase. What does that entail? What do you have, you know, in store?
Yeah. So as we have been using Anaplan for quite some years, I think we are already getting this kind of out of this kind of a starting point, right? Getting into the stabilized and the maturing stage. Maybe I said, surprises you, but I think one thing we're trying to do at the next time is trying to actually doing an evaluation of the existing use cases and see what we want to keep and actually what we don't need to do it. What I'm saying is that now we probably after years of experience, we now understand what Anaplan is good for, and sometimes Anaplan is not good for. So for the coming a few years, one of my job is actually trying to see whether we can actually move some of the quite not efficient processes from Anaplan to other platforms. For example, some of the very, very heavily reporting functionality, probably we don't need those to be in Anaplan. We can actually use some other more user-friendly reporting tool to do it. However, this will actually enable us to be able to focus on the core forecasting processes and actually creating more value, so we can actually concentrate our resources to actually deliver the true value for the people who are actually using Anaplan for. I think this is just another thing that we're going to do down the road. Nonetheless, we still need to continue building the partnership with our business side to actually getting Anaplan actually more integrated with the overall organization movement, right? Again, one of the goals is to reduce the friction, to increase the productivity, not by individual functionality, but as an organization. So it's a more connectivity, more data integration across the entire organization.
Understood. Understood. Makes sense. And then from your perspective, Chen, so while you know you've been on this journey, what has how has it changed your leadership style as a whole? So while you've been on the journey for Anaplan, not just that, but even before that, within the FP&A ecosystem, how has your leadership style changed?
Well, it is an interesting question, Ankit. I don't think we have a rigid definition of a leadership, right? So at the beginning, I thought that my leadership could be saying that, okay, I can tackle a project, I can actually finish something on time and finish something almost perfect, right? But more and more after years, I'm thinking about leadership to be that actually you're trying to motivate your team and trying to motivate your business partners to be able to continue the journey to change the organization, change the behavior. That plays more role. And sometimes, I think of myself, like, I don't know, Ankit, I'm a savvy soccer fan. So I watch a lot of soccer games in my leisure time. So originally I thought, okay, I would be, like a team captain, right? Trying to tackle all the issues, trying to get the goals, trying to score. Now I'm more thinking that, well, I'm actually drawing back to the kind of a coaching line role on the sideline, saying that, my job is to motivate my 11 players on the pitch so they can do their job. And hopefully that give you a little bit of a sense on, my journey as a CoE lead in Moët Hennessy, USA.
Perfect. I didn't know that you were a soccer fan. And just to one of the things that during my MBA, to piss off my American friends, I always used to say that it was the real football, and it was not soccer. So, but
Yes,
then
I know.
I think,
Similarly, I needed to
yeah.
adjust, that terminology for myself. But now I'm so used off, and my kids they watch soccer as well with me, so I'm very happy to talk about some tactics, and hopefully, they can learn a little bit. We all can learn a little bit together from the game.
Absolutely. What are the teams that you follow, Tim?
Yeah. So my favorite team is Barcelona.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been watching for more than 20 years. And about 6 years ago, I took my family to Barcelona and visited New Camp, and I think they were so happy. And we got plenty of souvenirs. Yeah,
Oh, that's a very massive stadium. Must have been an amazing experience.
exactly. And a fantastic team.
Absolutely. I think off late, yes, they've gone through a bit of a rebuilding, but then now I think they're back to being strong again.
Yep. To your point.
Absolutely.
I guess,
What's
we
that?
do have some common interest.
Oh yes, yes, yes. I myself grew up watching soccer as well, and played quite a bit, and that's why so soccer and Formula One are two sports that I follow very very closely.
Oh, great. So next time we chat, we talk a little more about uh, our uh, our teams and our interests and how we look
Absolutely,
at the game. Yes,
absolutely. Maybe we'll catch a game when we meet in person the next time.
sounds perfect.
Awesome. Um, and then Jim, I know that we're very close to the end of the session. But then one thing that I would definitely would want to hear from you is a word of advice for the organizations that are starting their enterprise planning journey, right? They might be doing it in some shape or form so far, but then if they want to start off, and this seems like a mammoth task, right at the beginning. So how would you suggest that they start off?
Yeah, very simply, I have probably three very short suggestions. First, start small. Sometimes you almost want to create kind of a bare bones solution first, then you add the features gradually. Never overlook the challenge on the team's adaptation. A lot of time we think that, yes, we want to actually do something great, fantastic. We want to actually give totally overhaul the entire thing. And I'm not saying that it cannot be done, but just expect a lot of learning curve, a very deep learning curve. So instead, if you try something small, you get the attraction, and you do something gradually, sometimes better. One of the feedbacks I always heard from my colleagues, actually from friends who actually did Anaplan was, oh, nothing was right at the first time. So you have to actually redo everything. So start smaller, and maybe that
Yeah.
actually helps. Number two, when you do your first implementation, remember that you're actually trying to build a partnership instead of just trying to finish the project. I think Ankit, it was very, we have the same probably philosophy because, I remember that was the thing that you told me when we met, right? Before saying that we want to build a partnership. I think it's similar, within the organization, you're actually building a partnership with your internal clients. So always remember that it's going to be a longer relationship. It's not going to be finished after the project is done. And the final one, once again, be ready for a cultural change. It will be a cultural change nonetheless. So be ready for that and think about how to be a change agent. If you don't have the, you think you don't have this kind of a capacity or a skill set, you definitely need to have someone who has it to be part of the implementation team.
Agreed. That's the very. I think you said it best. I couldn't have said it better. Um, with that, Jim, I guess I'll leave the. We have a couple of minutes, so I'll leave the floor open for any questions as well, if people have any.
Sure.
Hey, Jim, Ankit, I can see a couple of questions in the chat. So I'll just read out the first one and you guys can take it if whoever wants to. Given the volatility in the raw material cost, how do you help in planning scenarios where margins can be eroded in a few weeks or months?
Well, I want to be honest. I think right now within the Moët Hennessy USA, we're not at the stage of doing the material management by day. Well, we're trying to actually do that from a monthly basis to weekly basis. One of the challenges, again, is the data readiness or not. If you are not familiar with our industry, maybe you are. Our industry is quite a special from all the other beverage and customer consumption group because our industry is highly regulated. So a lot of times the sales data, even the sales data, they're moving very slowly across the supply chain. So many times we won't be able to know our distributors or wholesalers the sales result only after 1 month, and the data actually are reported not from our wholesalers or syndicated source. It's actually reported by the each individual state across like 17 states in the US. So these data kind of a fragrancy highly jeopardized our way to actually trying to do a faster data analyticals. So we have been trying to tackle that for many years, but recently, again, it's a larger piece of change. Cultural change is for the industry cultural change to see that how we actually can make the data moving faster. We're making some progress by actually influencing our biggest kind of clients and customers to see that let's first trying to do kind of a collaboration, all right, and data integration. And then hopefully that is going to actually change the industry to getting more efficient on data flow. The question again, it is one of the challenges we're facing, and we're still trying to find a solution. Not, I think the journey actually probably is just started, a long way to go.
Thanks, Jim. I think that answers it. Okay, I think we can take one more if the time permits. What is your advice for managing a cross-country CoE setup?
Well, okay. First, we do have Moët Hennessy is a global organization, so we do have multiple COEs set up across different countries. The headquarters in France, we have a headquarters COE, and the USA is one of the largest regions, so we do have a COE overseeing North America, and we also have one in Asia. The way that we saw the setup of the COE is the central team is in charge of the global processes and the global kind of consolidation of different kind of processes. The local COE teams are in charge of something that the processes which cannot adapt to the global process, so it has to be customized for local needs. And in the meantime, we also maintain the local users, which is not part of the global COE's jurisdiction. In the meantime, the global COE is also in charge of creating these Anaplan communities across the entire organization. The local team is trying to, again, to be closer to the key users and trying to create the champions for each of the local functionality as well. Globally, we definitely share the best practices, and also each of the projects use case approval need to be actually communicated or across different COE to make sure that we actually allocate the best resources, and actually trying to see is whether we have existing processes we can use, or we have whether we have any potential conflicts between the local processes and global processes. If we have a project that actually can be deployed globally, normally we have both kind of a local COE and global COEs working together to be sitting in the project team to make sure that we don't have any potential conflict, that actually we can actually give our best advices together.
Thanks, Jim. That was a pretty exhaustive structure that you explained. I think that's really beneficial.
Yeah.
I know we're at the top of the hour, but I can just see one more question, Jim, if that's okay with you. Can we take one more?
Of course.
Okay. So, what benefits the business users have found most valuable from Anaplan adoption?
All right. So number one is, I guess, the single source of truth, so data transparency. You can imagine, right? Without Anaplan, we got, I don't know, a countless Excel spreadsheet. I think it's not unique to us. I think I heard many times. There's so many versions of Excel spreadsheets, so many kind of different versions of data actually flying around. So the communication and each of the conversations getting lost because you're almost thinking that I'm making my decision based on this, but not on the other. With Anaplan, everybody can actually look at the data set because we have this so controlled system, and we can actually give access to all different functionalities. Now they don't have any kind of a doubt on what they are seeing, right? Of course, that means the controls are sitting very heavily on the Anaplan CoE. So that's why, a lot of time we heard like, okay, Jim, are we good on this one? Are we good on that one? Because, actually people, instead of asking each other, they ask a CoE, they trust us to see that, okay, because we have a central control. We know that at some time, at what time the data will be ready for everyone. So I think that's the number one benefit. Now people don't ask around with Excel spreadsheets with additional kind of, okay, are you sure this is the final version or you're still working on that? They actually look at Anaplan system to see whether the data are ready for them or not. So that's the number one benefit. Number two, I think is again, for organizations which are not like a process oriented, you actually benefit from that. You're forcing your business client to document and actually standardize the processes within Anaplan. So it's actually making the internal auditing easier, and actually it's actually encourage a lot of conversations and actually the rethinking of the existing process. I think that's another benefit. Again, we're talking about a cultural change, so it's encourage, okay, we're more getting translate from a kind of a entrepreneur mindset into a more kind of a corporate mindset in terms of business control. I think that's the number two benefit. And of course, I said, you're building a relationship, so you're actually getting a super trust from your business users, because now they see the value. They can actually getting something done faster than before. And this actually is a great kind of a joy I have, as I explained, just as a starter. And when you're doing more about the Anaplan, of course, you will see multiple kind of dimensions on how Anaplan actually bring into the organization.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jim.
Perfect. Great, and thank you so much, Jim. Thank you for taking our time today and adding to our series of Anaplan Heroes. This has been a great session, and then like I said earlier as well, I really wanted to be the one to get a chance to interview you for this session. And I will hold you to a soccer game the next time I'm there in New York, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're always welcome, Ankit.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you for taking our time today. And you have the great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me, Ankit. And I wish you a very good holiday season and Happy New Year in advance.
To you too. To you too. I'm sure we'll speak before that, but if we do not, Happy New Year and happy holidays to you too.
Yeah. Thank you.